really been looking forward to this event because this is the first time we're going to actually brew during a gourmet brewing event. And I think that is just so perfect. And we couldn't have done it without the guest who's on today. And he's an amazing serial entrepreneur. And so, for those of you that don't know Aaron Walls, you will get to know him tonight. And I promise you're going to have a lot of fun. So, this is a great event. And so, first of all, I wanted to welcome everybody. I'm broadcasting from Greenville, South Carolina. I see people from all over the country. I think I saw the Netherlands swing by there. I'm sure there's some others. There's a lot of names that I recognize there in the chat. Gary, David, gosh, there's a bunch of you. So I'm glad you're here. And I hope everybody is staying safe. I know I'm getting my COVID shot tomorrow, so that'll be my first. I'm looking forward to things getting back to normal, getting back to beer judging and doing other events like that. But meanwhile, this is our 61st major event. And some of you may have noticed some new things that I'm doing. And I actually did it with Aaron. We actually have done it twice now. But I hope you'll appreciate it. And I'm not quite sure how to publicize them, so you'll have to let me know. Please email me if you've got a thought on it. But on the major events, I'll send out emails to the whole mailing list. And then I have these pop-ups, which I'm calling them sneak peeks. And so Aaron and I actually did a sneak peek, and that's how we met each other. And he started brewing a beer in 5 minutes, and I said, okay, we got to do a show on this. And so that's how that happened. And so I do these periodic small ones, and I don't count them as a major event. But anyway, 61 major events. I hope you can catch a pop-up. They're all recorded, and you can see them there. Anybody that signs up can get to them there in the channel. I appreciate you spending time with me tonight. I know everybody has a million other things you could be doing. It's spring. It's starting to get gorgeous outside. But I appreciate your taking time with Aaron and I tonight because I want to try and make your day more delicious one sip at a time. Now, today we're going to talk to Aaron, and I know you're tired of hearing me talk about him, and let's bring him on the screen. There he is, Mr. Walls. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having me again.
Well, I appreciate you joining us because we're going to actually do a first, and this is just fantastic because I've never been able to use my Pico brew on the program because it's so noisy. It just makes a ton of noise. We did do a small batch brew with some Kveik yeast, but I was really just, I threw some Kveik in a wort, and we were just trying to see how quickly we could get the bubbler to get active. So this is going to be a real first, so I really appreciate you being here. And I don't know if anybody caught it or not, but I did a pop-up with Aaron, and he literally started a beer in 5 minutes, unplanned, impromptu, and that's what led to this. So, but let me tell you a little bit about Aaron. He attended Cornell to get his undergrad degree and finished with his MBA. He's been home brewing for over 15 years. He grew up not too far from my part of the world in Atlanta, and that kind of inspired him because for those of you that have lived in the South, you know it gets awfully hot here, and pretty well for 6 months out of the year you can't brew. So apparently that's what inspired him to develop the Brewjacket. And now he's developed and merged a lot of those technologies because I recognize them in the BEERMKR. He's done 4 successful, I think you said you've done 4 Kickstarters, 3 successful ones.
Yep.
So, you know, this is just fantastic, Aaron. I don't know that I ever had anybody on the show that had 4 Kickstarters.
Well, yeah, and like we were saying, the first one was a total failure, but it was very successful in that we learned all the things not to do. And most importantly, the most critical thing is asking the people who are interested in the thing you're trying to sell what they want. You know, it's and we didn't do that for the first Kickstarter, and then the product in a weird state, you know, got picked up on BYO magazine because we went to NHC, we're showing it around, and they ended up taking a photo of it in a configuration that I told them we were working on, but that didn't actually work at the time. And that's the one that they published. and which was cool. And then we got thousands of emails from people saying, "Oh my God, I missed the Kickstarter. When are you going to ever sell this thing?" So we're like, all right, well, let's start talking to all these people who've emailed us and figure out what they actually want. And we did, and made a new Kickstarter about a year later, and it was successful. And then I've been, took that and moved to Boulder, built a bunch of Brewjacket immersions in my basement and began selling them. And then it just kind of got big. We got picked up by Brewcraft. It's been sold to 30 different countries around the world. And then we kind of had this realization, like, one of the core things about beer is the temperature at which you treat the yeast, and how do you make the yeast as happy as possible, so have the yeast make the best beer. So, just taking the tech we built for high precision fermentation and applying it to other parts of the brewing process as well, we realized that there was something there, and we began working on BEERMKR using the core technology we built with Brewjacket immersion. And and then 3-4 years later, we finally have started shipping BEERMKR.
Well, I can't wait to get going with this, and this is going to be super. Before we jump into that, though, I know there's a number of people that have not joined us before, and I just wanted to touch on briefly kind of what these events are all about. So this is Gourmet Brewing, and I'm Doug Piper, and if this is the first time that you've been to one of our programs, we have monthly events with subject matter experts. That's a real important part of it. We always try and bring in subject matter experts, and I promise you, Aaron lives up to that description. This is our 61st free event, and these are free because of supporters, and this is all crowdfunded through Patreon. So there's a green button, kind of the bottom of the screen. If you're interested in exploring how you can be part of the solution of crowdfunding future events, please click that button at the bottom of the screen, and you can explore it just a little bit further. Another thing that helps, the follow button, which is maybe, I think, right about here. If you will click on that, that helps me with guests that are considered joining the program, because they will look to see how many followers are with Gourmet Brewing, and it helps you. You're not going to get spammed or anything like that. When I go live, you'll get a notification. So these pop-up events that I'm talking about, you'll get a little notification that it'll say, hey, Doug's gone live, or crazy, or whatever. But anyway, he is there. So just click on that. That'll help with a lot of things. Refreshing the browser solves most technical issues. However, if you're struggling, and sometimes I know I do here in this area, you can reduce the resolution by clicking on the lower right-hand corner, maybe right about here, something like that. And there is a gear symbol where you can turn down the resolution. Please share in the chat, maybe even your LinkedIn link. I want these to be networking events. We're building a great community here. I find LinkedIn is a good way to do that. I'm not promoting them. They don't give me any money, but I am a LinkedIn Live producer, and actually this is out live on LinkedIn right now. But that's a good way to share. Submit your questions, and I see there's already 6 down there. So Aaron has lots of great answers. I was grilling him pretty good before we got started, and he's on top of it. So I think you'll have fun with your questions. Our next event is coming up next Thursday night, and this is going to be on how American brewers, craft brewers, are now influencing European brewers. And Julia Hertz is going to be on it. We're going to have Fritz Moser. We're going to have clips from some of his interviews with Rodenbach and other breweries. It's going to be really neat. I promise you don't want to miss that. And I'll be sending out the link to that shortly, but it won't be live in this event. So with that, Aaron, let's get started with this. Yep. I'm getting thirsty. I've got a Pauliner Salvatore I have been waiting to open for some time. And you couldn't find one. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, no, it was unfortunately my local store. I live in a neighborhood of Boulder called Gun Barrel, and our local Gun Barrel store did not have any. So I had to take the next best thing, which is a kind of a fun. It's sneak peek at one of the next maker kits we're releasing. This is a Martzen, and it's very delicious. Not quite a doppelbock. You need a little more Munich and a little more alcohol in it for it to really become a good old doppelbock. Doppelbock. But I'm here with you in spirit.
Well, I'm going to pour mine, and hopefully everything will cooperate. Now, if anybody's noticed, it's a different background, and that's because this is the BEERMKR, and we're going to be opening it up in just a moment. So, Aaron, one of the things we always do is we try and do a nice pour, and I will do my best and try not to spill it.
It is important. Oh, that's nice. Yeah. It's a great color.
Oh, look at that. I didn't even get it drip down the side.
Gorgeous.
Isn't that pretty? That's a nice beer. We'll bring that up to the camera so we can see what that guy looks like. We'll see how clean my glass is.
Nice.
That looks nice. It is sparkling clear, nice copper color. Look at that. Boy, you can just about read a book through it. It is brilliantly clear. Nice thick head. It's holding up there. Wow. That's a nice, almost whipped cream.
Yeah.
No, a little more sea foam. Sea foam.
Got a good camera there. You can see every individual bubble coming out.
It's a nice glass too. So, but I'm tired of looking and I want to try. So we're going to be making something like this in a minute, right?
Yes. So what Doug posed to me last time is that, like how can BEERMKR, do with more complex beers? Like I get you can make a wheat beer, pale ale, IPA, whatnot. But what about something that requires a little more effort, like a doppelbock, decoction mashes? And it's like, well, let's try it. So and that kind of brings a neat piece of BEERMKR in that in order for it to be this 5-minute setup and then go on about your day or, rapid experimental, you can't do things exactly as you would do them normally. Like pull wort out of your mash, boil it down into a thick syrup, and then add it back into your mash like you would in a decoction. So what we can do is add melanoidin malt. And, so a lot of that development of those melanoidins they happen on the maltster side. And we get this malt that has a lot of that character to it. So while we're not able to do exactly that with the 5-minute version of this, we can get pretty close by choosing our ingredients and using them wisely. Whereas, let's say you wanted to sit and as the machine is in the middle of the mash, you're certainly welcome to pull some of that out and do a decoction on it. There's nothing stopping you. And I think that's one of the real fun things about BEERMKR is you can take it as deep as you want to go, but it's still a very first and foremost, it's a speed machine, it's a convenience machine, and it will allow you to rapidly iterate on recipes. And and then scaling them up and down. I think I saw a question in here, maybe from Kevin, about how do you scale the recipes between a BEERMKR batch and your big batch. And and really the answer is it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. If you're trying to get the exact beer, it's going to be a challenge to do that because they're very different systems. But if you're trying to explore different flavors and try to get all right, so what's the deal with this new experimental hop? I want to do a couple different iterations on it. This is a great machine to do that kind of work and experimentation on. It's not like one of those, a perfectly scalable machine, but that said, you can get really close, like really, really close with it. And that's what's exciting. But, because normal brewing, you're going through the kettle and you're getting those Maillard reactions with your sugars. And you don't really get much of that in BEERMKR. But what you can do is sub in a little more caramel and go a little darker in the caramel in order to approximate that. And it's never going to be exact, but you're going to get pretty close to it. And it's going to allow you to begin experimenting. And then once you get something to scale it up, it's a pretty good approximation of where you're going to end up.
So I am getting mine set up here.
All right. So while you're doing that, I'm gonna, in case people haven't seen it, this is our brewing lab. So we've got a number of BEERMKRs that are set up here, just churning out different recipes, experiments, and whatnot. And then outside, you can see our grain. This is one of our pallet racks of grain that we mill for our maker kits. And let's see. Buy a bag of that malt. Sure. Are you in Boulder, David? And then I can get you a quick look out here. So this is, we're just giving a quick tour of what we've got going on. If you can see, there's Maggie making some maker kits. We've got a number of beer makers and beer taps, and got bagging machines, milling. It's a fun little operation, and we're excited. We're part of the agricultural processing, food packaging cohort in Colorado, so we're all eligible for our vaccine. So it's pretty exciting to get back to life as normal, and we're really happy about finally being able to open it up, and whoever wants to come, if you happen to be in Boulder, stop by and we'll pour you some beers and show you around. So what you got going on over there, Doug?
Well, the GoPro, which I have worked on to get all set up, has decided to not wake up. It's the minute you go on camera. I apologize for not. So what I'm going to have to do, oops, there we go. What I'm going to have to do is pop it out right quick. And so I'm going to let you keep talking while I do that right quick and get it going, because the GoPro is kind of essential to show this.
Gotcha. Yeah, so a little bit of the history of where we've been with BEERMKR. Actually, before I go into that, maybe I can jump into some questions that some people have. So let's see. Kevin is asking about the machine being reliant to internet connection. It is reliant on an internet connection to work initially. So you need to have it connected to Wi-Fi in order for it to receive the recipe you're about to brew. But then once it has the recipe, all it needs is a power connection. It doesn't need Wi-Fi. So let's say you have just a hotspot on your phone. That can work too. You just connect to your phone's hotspot, to your BEERMKR to your phone's hotspot, and then you can send the recipe with the app like normal. So that's pretty easy. Let's see. So about your own options for caking and serving, yes, absolutely. We are absolutely planning for this eventually, right? So as I'm sure everybody who has a BEERMKR or part of the Facebook group has been following the Kickstarter. We are working on a couple of little pieces on the beer tap that need to get revised in order for that to be a little bit more reliable, because right now it's hard to tighten a couple of valves, and if you don't get them perfect, they can essentially burp a little bit. and then you can get some beer coming out, and that's obviously terrible. So that's what we've been focusing our attention on, is getting all of the current units fully up and running, and then we're going to be doing, expanding more things like, officially supporting things like keg drinkers. Having said all that, there is an excellent resource on the Facebook group. There's actually somebody, I'm not sure it is, I'm sure we've got some Facebook people up here right now who can point you to the right way, but some of the members are actually 3D printing keg adapters. So if you wanted to screw in a barbed adapter to transfer out to your keg, they're actually 3D printing them and sending them out to other members who've been asking for them.
Okay. I have got the GoPro up and running. It has worked perfectly up until just a minute ago. So we ready to jump into this, guy? You gonna walk me through this?
Let's do it. You've got a bit of an echo.
Oh, I do. Ooh, wonder why. You still hearing the echo?
A little bit, yeah.
Huge echo. All right, let me look for just a minute. It could have something to do with the GoPro.
All right, so while Doug's figuring that out, let me get another question.
Yep. All right, how about that now? Is that any better?
Still echoing.
Still echoing. Must have something to do with the GoPro. All right, let's see what the mic says. Black magic. Mute the GoPro. I wish I knew how to mute the GoPro. It's not supposed to be picking it up. It's not the speaker on the computer. I'll tell you what, Aaron, I may, oh my gosh, I can't mute you. I'm going to turn you down.
All right. There we go. I can turn me down. Yeah. There we go. Let's try it again.
Yeah, I guess if somebody could let me know, are you hearing echo when I talk or when Aaron talks?
Yeah, when you talk.
Ooh, well, I'll be quiet then. That'll be easy enough.
All right. And then one of the questions, is there a homebrew competition for BEERMKR brews? That is somewhere we're going with the app. We're really the next set of changes we're putting through the app, having a community section where we're going to be doing fun events like brewing competitions, style-based brewing competitions, proximity-based. So if you have BEERMKR brewers in your local area, having brew days with the people and being able to share beer, rate beers amongst each other. So there's a lot of really cool things that we're hoping to do. So if anybody has ideas or in particular functionality you'd like to see in the app, please email support, just support@beermkr.com, and would love to hear from you, because you're the ones who are using it. I mean, I am too, but obviously, would love
I think I may have fixed it, if that sounds better.
You sound perfect, Doug.
Excellent, or as good as I get. All right, so everybody can see us. This is handheld, so my apologies.
Yep.
So this is the device. So I've opened the door. Where should I start?
So first step, it doesn't look like it's plugged in. So we could start there.
All right. We'll get that plugged in. Okay.
Thanks, Todd. We don't sleep, really, on support.
Okay. We are plugged in.
There we go. All right. And then, yeah, so you should see a light. Red light means it's connecting to Wi-Fi. White light means you're good to go. There we go. All right. Now, so open the door and take off the lid. Step one.
Open the door and do what?
So take off that second lid. Sorry, not second lid, just the first lid. Second lid's technically the brew tub, but there you go. And that can just pull right off and place that somewhere safe. And now you're going to open up the brew tub. So the brew tub is that container right there. So inside of it, you've got your caddy, and that's where you hold all your grains. And then the tub itself is what holds your mash. Also holds your fermentation, holds your dry hop, and it is a blow-off container. So one of the questions we got originally before people had a chance to use it is, how do you handle blow-off? You know, I'm a normal brewer. I have to, you know, I've got these huge blow-off vessels, or, you know, I put them in mason jars. It's like, honestly, it's never been an issue because the volume up here is equal to the volume in the bag, if not a little bit more. So you have so much space up there to handle blow-off that we've never seen an issue with blow-off in this machine. So this is a good opportunity, Doug. If you can pull that tub off of your beer maker, I can show everybody another thing. So yep, there we go. That barb in the back is the interface into the CO2 monitoring system. So for everybody that has a beer maker today, this feature is not yet enabled. And we have recently sent out a firmware update, so I'm sure some people have noticed their machine is clicking now during their fermentation. And what that is we've activated the pressure system. So now it is, whenever it registers a pressure of a certain amount, it's opening up a valve in the back and releasing that CO2 gas. And what we do is we're monitoring how often that gas is being released as an indication of where we are in the fermentation cycle. So during the lag phase, you will see, essentially, you'll start to see the checks begin. And then when it starts to see those releases, it transitions it over to primary fermentation. And then you are able to select what temperature you want to have during the lag phase, during the primary, during the rest phase. So it will transition you throughout your full fermentation cycle to different temperatures that you have selected. You know, so we also have, I saw Jose in here. So Jose's awesome. We've been working with him forever now. Jose's from Fermentis, and we've been able to load in the Fermentis kinetics of their yeast strains. So we know the machine knows exactly when, let's say, your USO5 is transferring over from the primary fermentation phase into the rest phase, and the machine can then adjust the temperature higher to ensure that rest phase completes quickly. So we're able to shave a few days off of the brewing process because of that interaction. We haven't enabled it yet on all the machines, but I'm hopeful that we're a few weeks away from doing it. All right, so yeah, so when you put that brew tub back in, yeah, that's the thing. You kind of put it at an angle like this, and then make sure you've got that back grommet inserted into the barb. Yep, and you got it, just like that.
Yeah, it drops right in.
Yep. So next step is to find your brew bag. So in your maker kit, or if you're doing a DIY recipe, you'll have a number of bags. You've got a brew bag, which is the big one. There we go. Yeah, so this is the brew bag. And then you've got a waste bag as well. Yeah, waste bag right here. So those two get mounted inside the machine, and fermentation and serving happens out of here, and you get to collect all your truth and your yeast and your whatever hop products fall out. And so Gary is asking the max volume. So we're looking at about 1,800 grams of malt is roughly the maximum volume, and then that's about 8.5%, 9% beer thereabouts. And then we're getting a question about the black plug. So no, you do not ever have to remove that, only when you clean. If you look down inside that black plug, you have there are two little beveled cutouts that allow gas to pass, but they prevent things like, malt from getting in there or big water splashes from filling it up. And then, all right, so where are we at now? All right, so we've got our bag. Oh, great. So you've got your valve screwed into your brew tub, and then we've got the bag, and there we go. And now we should have some white valves as well.
Yep.
And
Should I get that first?
Yep. And then grab your white valves and screw them in.
So that came in this neat little package.
Yep. There we go. And so let's see. David's asking, as a brewer, isn't it more fun to do all of this? Well, sure. If you've got the time and the energy and whatnot to do it. So one of the reasons we wanted to make BEERMKR was because, we started having families, or the ability for us to spend an entire Saturday or Sunday making beer on, either in our kitchen or on the back deck or in the basement or whatnot. I mean, it really became limited. So BEERMKR it's a tool for certain people who are really excited about getting back into brewing if they've had, reasons why they couldn't do it to begin with. Or let's say they loved it, they were avid brewers, and then, life got in the way. I've talked to people who have these amazing, brew setups, where it's like fully valved in palm stainless conical fermenters. And I'm like, I haven't brewed in a year, and I really want a BEERMKR so I can at least just make some beer again. So I'd say the big BEERMKR is, it does a lot of different things for different people. So, and some of the comments we've gotten are like, oh, you're taking all of the fun out of brewing, or the craft out of brewing. It's like, well, we're taking the labor out of brewing, but you still are crafting your brew. So, all right. So sorry, that was a bit of a tirade.
Hang the bag?
Yes, sir. So if you pull that squeeze bar out, yep, so there's the bar behind that has the BEERMKR name on it. So that needs to come out, and the bag needs to go behind it. There you go.
Okay. So I did that in the wrong order.
Yeah, it's all right. In the app, you can actually, it'll show you the right order to go through.
Okay.
And then
Snap this guy on.
there you go.
There we go.
Yep. And then that
I
waste
do
bag.
the bottom bag.
Yep.
Okay,
Awesome.
So
Thanks, Colin. He just posted a link to the BEERMKR owners group. It's an incredible resource of just everybody who, is brewing. I think we have like 600 or 700 members of that group now. I mean, it's amazing to see what everybody's doing. So yeah, Greg says, don't forget the Cervomyces. That was my fault. I actually forgot to give Doug the Cervomyces for this recipe when I sent it to him. But this is usually the stage where you would put the Cervomyces into the bag as well, if you wanted to have a yeast nutrient. But this is a lager yeast. We're going through. It's a pretty big pitch. So yeah, tons of.
The gray one goes on the waste bag, or does that go on the? Okay.
That's correct. Yep, goes on the waste bag, and then that sits on the bottom, and then you just plug it in like that.
I just snap him on.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Everything feels good tight. No, actually it doesn't. Oh, that doesn't. That's right.
Oh yeah, you may want to I would unclip that. Or you got it. Yeah, just make sure that you're still tight right there. That's something that can happen if you get it on and it's not perfectly aligned, and then you twist it, and then one of the two valves can unscrew. So
yeah, that's easy enough.
Great.
There we go. Okay, that looks correct.
Yep, and then you put the bar into the furthest back position. So I think that's where you had it. So there are two positions for that bar. The one furthest back is for the brewing. The one furthest towards you is for dry hopping and other additions. So
I'm trying to do this with one hand, so
yeah,
it's a little more scary. There we go.
yep,
Okay.
there we go. All right, and next we're going to open up your brew tub and find your brew basket and place the brew basket inside the brew tub.
Yeah, I'm not sure why the GoPro decided to do that, but it did. Hopefully,
Right.
hopefully I won't have to take the battery out like I did last time.
Well, we can see your face now.
Too bad. Let's see. There we go. Okay, she's coming back up. Well, I thought the GoPro was going to be a nice addition. I think I have to work on another beastie. But that's okay.
All right, that's fine. So while you're getting loaded, Aaron asked, so I realized Pico is gone. Tell me how you're different. So the biggest difference between Pico Brew and BEERMKR is Pico Brew is a wort maker. BEERMKR is a beer maker. Pico Brew is generally, they're cheaper systems. They're closed. They don't allow for you to just put new ingredients in on the fly or customize much of anything. And now that the Pico packs are a thing of the past, you really can't order those custom either. BEERMKR is totally open. We're not locking you into anything. And then we actually handle the entirety of the fermentation as well. And then the bag, which is cool, that bag actually pops out and you put it into a beer tap later, so you never expose the beer to oxygen or whatnot. So and germs. So it's very new user friendly and lets you get into the hobby and experience what it's like to craft your own beer. All right, so we're good. So Doug, so if you open up the lid now and then pop in your basket. There we go. And now let's measure out 30, what is it? This recipe, it's 3,500 and 3,600 milliliters of water.
Okay. I'll take the top off while I do this, so I've got room to spill. So you said 3,500?
Yep, let's start with 35.
That looks pretty close.
Yeah. Looks pretty good. And then we're going to toss that in. Just carefully pour it through the screen. It's nice to have the caddy in first because the perforations in the mesh really disperse the water without causing it to splash up.
Okay, it's kind of cool watching the
bag expand.
Yeah.
Yep, there we go.
Oh.
Yes, that's right. Todd says check for leaks. So it's always good to make sure that you don't have anything flowing out at this point. And making sure all of the valves are nice and tight.
Where would I see it? I'm not really
exactly where you're feeling
so far.
Yep, perfect.
Hey, first timer.
Yep.
So Todd, where would I look for leaks?
Just where you did. All right, and next, all right, so this recipe, I'm gonna go grab my sheet and make sure I see it right. All right. So this recipe has, I've actually just printed out our BEERMKR recipe template sheet on Excel. We're in the process of building this into the app, so it'll be way more inclusive where you can just go into the app and build your recipes and you don't have to track all these things around. Oh yeah, the spent grains. You clean your bags for multiple use. Waste is pretty minimal. Yeah, so, all right, so what we're looking at is we've got 1,500 grams of Munich in this recipe, and then we've got 200 grams of melanoidin malt. And we're going a little heavy with that. That's 12% of grist, because we're really trying to get that caramelized, syrupy feel that the doppelbock is known for. And this is one of those adjustments that we can make on, like I was saying earlier, if we can, you know, if we're not going to be pulling the wort out of the mash and boiling it, it's good to put in an ingredient that will get us close to it. So, all right, Doug, it's ready for malt.
Ready for malt. Okay. So let's see. All right, so just I've got bags of malt here. And so I should just dump those in?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. I knew I forgot one thing. I should have got scissors.
Yeah, you can just tear the little perforation on the top pretty easily.
Yep.
Although if you do
Always
that,
have a knife.
it's come totally apart. So.
But that's
Yeah.
slowing things a little bit. My apologies to everybody.
Yeah. So Kevin,
Okay.
Doug is going to send this spreadsheet out to everybody after the event, so you'll be able to have it too.
All right. Just keep going.
Keep going. All the malt.
All right. So that was the 2-row Munich. That was Munich.
Yep. So there should be 3 500-gram bags of Munich and then 1 200-gram bag of melanoidin.
Yeah, this is the Great Western melanoidin.
Yep. We haven't begun packing those yet, so I just did a little hand pack on that guy.
And for the Munich.
Yep. It's really funny, Mark, that the compost bin, the worms are struggling to keep up with the amount that you're doing. That's hilarious. So Tiago's asking if we can leave the waste bag out since we're going for match. So no, and that actually brings up a really good point, is that this it needs to go through the full sanitation process. So it gets up to temperature, it kills off all the bugs, and then that's what we're going to be using for fermentation. So the idea is you don't actually have to use Star San or iodophor. It's always good to have those things handy if you're getting in and out of it. But the goal was to make it easy and not make people have to buy chemicals. So that was a big goal of this product. All right, so if you got, it looks like you got all the malt in there. That's a lot of malt. That's about 1,700 grams of malt, and that's going to produce a pretty big beer. So it looks like we're probably going to be close to 75% with this recipe. All right, Doug. So now we're ready for the rest of the water.
All right. How much more water we need?
So if you did 35 the first time, let's do 36 100
Okay.
milliliters. All right, so let's see. While Doug's doing that, let's see who else is asking. So Gary, this is an interesting question. I'm not sure how this fits in with traditional brewing competitions. I would love to put BEERMKR beers and see people submit BEERMKR beers to competitions and see, see what comes out. There's a lot of technique involved, but what the judges are judging is how well it matches style, how and you get dinged for defects, and there shouldn't be too many defects coming out of a BEERMKR.
Just pour it in?
Yep, and just pour the rest of that in.
All right.
And go slow. The water level is going to be a little high on it, but it should be good.
Just within about inch of the lip, maybe a half inch now. Right at it, isn't it?
Yep. There we go. If you've got a spoon or something, if you want to just make sure there aren't clumps in there. And if not, oh no, you look great. You look great. You don't need that. Those will saturate and get there. So now all you have to do is close up the lid and open up the app. And so for those of us joining late, this is a DIY brew. So this isn't the traditional maker kit brew, and we're going to get into that a little bit. Yeah, that's right, David. Mash in at strike temp 60. You know, we also do that for a reason too. You get slightly better efficiency out of it. The system gets up to about 80% efficiency on starch conversion, and it's, you know, and it also goes through all of the enzyme activation temperatures along the way, and it also slices up a lot of protein enzymatically, which is helpful because, you know, we're not going through a boil, so you don't get that huge coagulation of protein that you get in a boil, but you still do get a decent amount of hot break. So having it heat up is nice. It'll chop the proteins a bit, yeah, then it'll get up to your traditional mash temps. So now, Doug, what you can do, if you've got your app,
yeah, okay.
Start a DIY.
I'm gonna have to make a little room.
Okay.
I'm gonna put a couple of things around here. There we go. I guess I shouldn't be carrying the camera around.
So Brandon, using warmer water on the start, you can absolutely do that. Your efficiency goes from 80 to about 70, 75%, somewhere in that range. It trims a lot of time off the brew, and it's totally fine to do it if you're wanting to start with hot water.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll see.
There we go. All right. So there we go. So we pulled up. So this is, yeah, we were walking through the steps before. So Doug, if you go back on here,
okay,
hit the back button. Yeah, and just proceed without saving. Yeah. So Doug and I were messing around with this before the show. So go back again and just get to your main screen so we can show people how to start it up. And then if you go back one more, sorry. All right, so this is the main screen of the app. You know, if you've got a number of beer makers, they all line up here on the page. I'll show you my app right now. I've got all of the beer makers in the lab. So I've got, here we go. Yeah, so I've got a whole bunch of them lined up here, and it shows me what I'm brewing. So Doug's got one, so it's ready to brew. So tap your beer maker, and we're going to start a DIY recipe. So start DIY, and then a new recipe. And then from here, you can create your beer name. So this is, you know, Doug's Doppelbock. Yeah, and this DIY section is it's next in line to get a facelift. Right now, it's just handling the fermentation side, but we're going to also build in recipe building and also build in hot side control as well in the future. So Doug's now selecting the yeast strain. So this is a SAF lager W3470. Since the Baltic Porter, or sorry, not a Baltic Porter, doppelbock, it's a lager. We're going to choose our gravity level next. So you tap that, and this is a high gravity beer. And what it automatically loads the sedimentation. So this is a fast sedimenting yeast, and that controls how often the vibratory motor will run. So, and that's something that Jose and his wonderful people at Fermentis have published, and so we're pulling in all of those recommended settings. Likewise, we have the optimal temperatures for lag, for primary, for rest, and for conditioning for the W3470 yeast strain. So, we're going to be adding more yeast over the long haul on this thing. But right now we are, so we've got most of, I think, or if not all of Fermentus's beer yeasts. So if you wanted to change your temperatures, you can do it here. If you want to change the times and force it to do different things, you can do it. You can also add a dry hop. What this will do is we'll put in a notification for you when it's done with primary fermentation. It'll send you a notification saying, it's time to dry hop, and go over to your machine and add your dry hops. So it's a nice reminder. But as we build this section out to be more robust, that's something like all of this is going to change. Like, this will be here to a certain extent, but it's going to be way more control over it, which is exciting. So yeah, so then you just hit save recipe and go, and you hit that button, and then sends the recipe to the machine, and then you should have a after you've done that. So start recipe on the bottom. There we go.
Yeah, I was going. Apparently, the GoPro likes to time out.
There we go. So now what you should see is your machine should have a blinking white light.
Not yet.
And yeah,
but I hear it. I hear the fan. Should I relieve that?
Yep, that's great. Yeah. So now if you check out your beer maker, you should have a blinking white light on it.
I will try the side camera since the. Oh, we're looking at the polliner.
There it is. It's blinking. So
that's what we.
That's
what
it.
we need. Yeah. The white one.
Exactly. So when it's blinking like that, that means it's ready for you to take the next step. So when you send the recipe to the machine, it will start blinking, and it will. In a traditional maker kit, it will take you through those step-by-steps. I did it for you live because it's more entertaining this way instead of you reading your phone. And now you just press the button and it will go. So next time when it's ready for you to do something, which will be to pitch yeast, you'll get another blinking light, and you'll
so go ahead and punch it.
Yep, hit it. There. Let's see. There it goes, and now it's pulsing.
Oh, okay. Yep. Oh, now I hear some fans.
There we go.
Firing up.
You're brewing. So,
but I mean, while they are audible, it's nothing like the Pico.
That's true. The Pico sounded
nothing like the Pico.
Yeah, the Pico that I had was very, very loud.
Yeah, and I like my Pico. I'm really not bad mouthing it. I'm just saying I couldn't do an event with it. So David's asking, am I going to do a live tasting when the beer is ready? I will, and maybe Aaron, can we talk you into joining?
That would be fun. Let's do a quick update and drink some beer.
So what else is there to do?
Go drink a beer.
Really? So we're brewing.
You're brewing.
Well,
yeah.
Cheers.
Yeah. Cheers. Cheers.
Now that took a long time.
Well, we got sidetracked here and there. We had some GoPro issues. But
yeah, Mark's got a suggestion for me there. I'm gonna have to try that.
Oh yeah, if you don't press the record button.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. I think I may. If I can't figure it out, I will get another camera because I'll be needing to do these. But you demonstrated live and unrehearsed your brew. Would you do it again for us to show so everybody can see just how to really do it right?
Yeah, I'd love to. So here we go. So here's a beer maker behind me. Let me get this angled. So this is affectionately labeled beer maker number 3. So I'm going to open this up. And then, so in our packaging, we've got this is our hardware bag. Comes with all the goods that you need. So we got our bag, we got our waste bag, and we got a couple little CO2 cartridges. All right, I'm gonna go grab my white valves. Okay. All right, so bag. I'm gonna, oops, this one's dirty. All right, so screw my white valves in. Oh, yeah, no, sorry about right now. So I'm going to omit the Cervomyces as well, so we can both be drinking the same beer. All right, so now I'm going to screw in my gray valve into my waste bag. Put that in. And now I've got another gray valve, and I've got my brew tub. So I'm going to screw this in. Okay. Now, insert this. It's going to do it by feel now. I've done a lot of these. All right, so brew basket in. Squeeze bar. Solid. All right, now I'm going to grab some water. Go water in. Next, we've got some malt. Oops. There we go. It's going a little too fast there. 1, 2. Third bag of Munich. And then we've got our melanoidin. All right, and next, I'm going to finish it up with the next additional water. Go. That's nice. Something I like to do, totally not required. I like to give this a little bit of a lift to make sure everything is nicely spread out. I got a little bubbling back here at my snorkel. But yeah, that's it. Now, close it up. Yeah, we're a little full. I got a little splash out right there. So this is definitely going to be a full batch. All right, and now let me open up my app. And let me find my machine number 3 if you guys can see. That's actually a pretty good angle here. Machine 3, start a DIY kit. Let's call this doppelbock. There we go. I'm going to pick my W3470. It's a high gravity beer, fast sedimenting. It's good. Let's start it. All right, so now we just need to wait down here for the blue to go. There we go. All right, we're brewing.
That's embarrassing. But you know, the best part about this, with all my other brewing, I found I could not have a beer and brew at the same time and ensure I got decent results. And I really feel like with this I can.
Yeah, no, that's it's fun. I mean, it's just fun, and that's really the point of this. You know, it's like we're not trying to take over home brewing. We're not trying to replace anything. We're just trying to have fun and make some really, really tasty beer and solve some issues for people who haven't been able to brew in a while by making it fast.
Well, I'm really looking forward to it because it is such an unusual system. Most of the other brewers were just miniature versions But I mean, your use of the bags and now you have a vibration system in this, right?
We do. Yeah. Let me get into some of these. Chris, do you have any good ones to show? Oh, that one's great. Yeah. Here we go. All right. So this guy. Say hi to Chris, everybody.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah. So Chris and I make a lot of these recipes. So this is what we pitched at, I don't know, 10 o'clock today, 11 o'clock today, something like that. So a few hours ago. And so we pitched up top. All we did was release the squeeze bar that was mounted in here. And then all of the wort drained from our grains down. And you can see the yeast have, we pitched yeast up here. They've now made it to the bag, and they haven't yet made it down here to the waste. It's going to take them, I don't know, a little bit longer, but you could also just give that a little squeeze. And now we've got a yeasty wort down in the waste bag and getting that going. Yeah, so the next step will be, I'm going to pop this open so you can get a little bit more light. You can actually see this nice little Krausen plume coming out of the valve. And we also have a lot of hop matter in here as well. So the next step is the pitch yeast and hops step. And you'll get a notification at some point tomorrow when everything is cooled down and ready to go. And where's my bag now? Yeah. And so pitch yeast and hops is pretty, I'm going to get a little bag of yeast and hops. And inside of here, you've got so this doppelbock, we're using a Vanguard steam hop. Vanguard is it's noble based. There's actually a Hallertau middle fill hop that we had that came over to the States a while ago, and it has a lot of really nice noble notes to it. So we're actually doing 12 grams of that just as a bittering addition. This is a 60-minute steam hop, and then also got some of the W3470, and we've got some alcohol wipes. Just give everything a wipe down, just open these up, toss them in, and that's your next step. So it's another couple minutes, about the same time tomorrow. And then you'll get another notification after the lager's done, and it says time to drink. And that's actually pretty fun. Do you want to try? We got these Martzens down here. Do you want to try to put them into a beer? Yeah, let's do it. Let's do a beer tap. Show you the final step. All right, so down here we've got a bunch of different Martzens that we've been brewing. This one's ready, so it's actually blinking at me saying it's time. And then so in here we've got a gorgeous looking Martzen that I'm drinking right now. Okay, so we can pull this off, and then Chris is being very helpful. And so he's opened up a beer tap. So this beer tap is how the essentially we're able to get the beer serving without exposing it to all kinds of oxygen and bad bacteria and whatnot. Yes, it is a lot of fun to have all of these machines. So let me go ahead and...
It's a tough job, but somebody's got to do it.
Exactly. All right, so I'm going to unplug this waste bag, put it aside. I'm going to unplug the brew tub and get that put aside as well. Got a little drip.
And it's clean as a whistle. I mean, I hadn't seen you spill anything. I haven't spilt anything in the studio here, except I had a few just little bits of grains of stuff.
Yeah, we got a little bit right there. Sometimes when the valve closes, it takes a little more time. But yeah, so here's our finished bag of a Martzen.
So Mark is commenting about the cleanup in a dishwasher. Do you want to comment on that, Aaron?
Would love to. So the dishwasher, Oh, here, let me. Yeah, can you feed angle it? And then here we go. So everything in here is dishwasherable. It's very. Try to get. So when we're done, you just toss your valves and you toss the brew tub into the dishwasher. Oh, sorry. Yeah, we didn't sanitize it. So if you have Star San, feel free to use it. Iodophor or whatever sanitizer you like. We give you alcohol wipes. Just give these valves a nice little wipe down. This is what I was talking about before, something that we're working on. This is essentially the tap valve where it needs to get screwed in pretty tightly, and it needs to get lined up. So here, what I like doing is actually getting a cloth and holding it so I can get a good grip on it, and then just tighten it down. All right, and now plug it in. There we go. Same deal with this guy. Give it a nice little wipe down out here. Wipe down here. There. Now, it's alcohol. I kind of want to let it air out. You don't want it to. It smells good. Okay. You just plug it in. Okay. Yeah, so there's a little bit of settling in the bag, which is fine. You just don't want to move it. Just treat it like a keg you would if you were home brewing. You don't want it to knock around and pick up any of the sediment. So something to look out for here too. Just make sure that these little pieces don't get caught when you close it. Looks pretty good to me. So close that up. And then if you grab a glass and try to get a little pour out before you charge it, make sure that liquid's flowing. It looks pretty good. So grab a fresh CO2 cartridge. There we go. And then you just screw it in. There we go. And now we've got fast flowing beer. That's awesome. Which recipe is this? Sorry, I'm gonna give some to Chris here. That's incredible.
That is amazing. That plastic thing can be a pressure vessel.
Yeah, and that's one of the best parts about what we're doing with this is because this process to go through the bottling, the traditional bottling process, it would have taken me 30 minutes to sanitize all the bottles, get things set up, get it into a bottling bucket, or if I'm using gravity feed. I mean, it's a long, frustrating process that, I at one point in my life I really enjoyed, but things have changed a little bit, and it's kind of hard to, be okay doing all the grunt work all the time, and still producing a lot of beers. And really, where this comes down to is like, what if I wanted to just try something new? Like, I don't know if it's gonna work. Let's just try it. And then what ends up happening is like, you put it through hours of work, and you don't take big chances because you don't want 5, 10, 15 gallons of beer that don't turn out. So what's cool with this is, it took us a couple minutes to set that up. We're gonna pitch yeast tomorrow. That took another couple minutes. I mean,
now you're bragging. You took a quarter of the time it took me to get set up, and you started a batch brewing, and then you transferred it to a keg.
Yeah. Cool. Like Chris was saying, well, we've also done this about 3,000
times.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But it's fun. It's why we're here. It's beer, and we're able to do more of it.
Aaron, it's past the top of the hour, and I do want to hear some Kickstarter programs because your business acumen is fascinating. But we do have 13 questions.
Okay.
Do you have time to dive into those?
Yes. Yeah.
Excellent.
Definitely. So to Todd's point, this is where I get spills. I think that was when I was transferring it. Sometimes the valve doesn't close that quickly. And that is something we're also working on. So to answer Todd, yeah, and
So,
Steve too.
so I was going to remind everybody again, those that can't stay for the questions, we understand. That's the neat thing about the Crowdcast platform is if you type your question in, if Aaron can get to it, you will get your question answered regardless. And you'll get an email to a link exactly where that question's answered. And you'll get that at the moment that Aaron's answering it. So if you've got to go grab a bite, but you look at your phone and it says Aaron's answering your question right now, you can jump back on. So for those that need to leave, we understand it. I thank you so much for your time. This has been a lot of fun. And we'll have another one next week that's going to be really special with Julia Hertz and Fritz Moser on Belgium and American beer influences. Now, we're going to jump right into the questions. Everybody can ask a question. Everybody's got one vote. So if you look through the questions and you go, oh, I like that question, you can vote the most important question to you to the top, depending on what everybody else says. So if you need to run, you'll get that question answered. So Kevin has the most popular question right now. He says the machine seems totally reliant on the internet connection to BEERMKR. If the BEERMKR were, heaven forbid, to go out of business or discontinue support, does the device become useless?
In its current stance, yeah, but if we were to go out of business, we would just give the keys to the AWS server over to the Facebook group and just, have it. And it's just it's a couple $100 a month in server costs, and you've got it. So, yeah, we wouldn't. I mean, obviously, we're not planning on it, and in like cloud devices, their usefulness comes with talking to the server. So if you guys wanted it, if we were ever to for some reason shutter, then yeah, absolutely. Just a couple $100 a month, and it would be I don't know, depending on how many thousands of people we have with machines, like it would be nominal to keep the thing running.
Well, for those of us that have Pico devices, we know it, but at least my understanding is Pico is maintaining the servers. So if their precedent is accurate, we hope that would occur with BEERMKR also. But right now, I don't see that happening. I think your device is pretty impressive. Kevin, great question. The next most popular question is also asked by Kevin. And Jack Paul agrees with Kevin. I'm not sure if you plan to demo this recipe scaling and the conversion process, but that would be helpful to see. BEERMKR provides a spreadsheet template for building recipes, and it'd be great to see a demo of someone taking a recipe from the internet and doing a scale convert with that spreadsheet.
Yeah, we should do it. We should just have a video on that, like just on our app. Like, how do you do this? It's a good question. The best way to start is the percentage of grist. You look at your malt bill, and then you've got to do some conversions to it. And it's not easy to do that. You've got to go, because we list everything in metric. Most, at least American homebrew recipes, are listed in pounds and ounces. So you do, let's say, 5 pounds of 2-row, and you scale that down. You would go, let's say, 5 pounds of 2-row, 1 pound of Munich, and then let's say 8 ounces of roasted. You convert all that stuff to metric, and we would essentially have, and then you divide that by 4, each one of those, and that's generally the ballpark to start with. And then, but the important thing is to look at the percentages each one of those pieces bring to the table, and then add them in, and you can do a hunt and peck trial and error of the amounts of it, and then just make them match. But that's cool. So I think if we can alter our recipe spreadsheet to have a copy pastable thing in there, so it's like if you copy these and then you paste it in, and then it will do the calculation for you. I think, yeah, I mean that's easy for us to get going for you. in Excel.
Well, I'm looking forward to that too, Kevin, because that's what I like to do is my own recipes. Plus, I've got a lot of grains and hops that I need to use up. So, a very practical question before we move on, and Kevin has the next most popular question. Kevin, you're really asking all the good questions, but I'm going to ask one since I've got the screen at the moment. So, this thing's sitting right in the middle of my studio, and I do other programs, and so I'm going to need to move it.
Yes.
So what happens when I unplug that and plug it into another place?
It pauses everything that you've got going on. And when you plug it back in, it reads where you were in your recipe and then picks it right back up. It's funny, we actually, one of the guys on the Facebook owners group, he actually moved houses with his beer maker in the process of brewing the Ursa Porter, I think. He was in the middle of a lager. And he unplugged his machine, put it in the back of his car, drove to the new house, and then plugged it back in, and it kept lagering for him.
Well, I'd say that answers that question.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And that's if the Wi-Fi goes out, no problem. Like you only need Wi-Fi if you want to get updates on the app, or if you need to or for your notifications to come through. If you're paying attention, like let's say you're doing like our recipe here, this doppelbock. After you pitch yeast, you're not going to be touching this thing for 300 hours. So you don't need to come back to it. And honestly, like you don't even need to be notified when it's done because it's going to complete the recipe and then hold it in a cold hold step until you figure out that the thing's done. So in reality, you only need Wi-Fi for a couple minutes, and then you can just let the beer maker go.
Good. And Erin Glass says you guys are awesome. She's referring to you, Erin.
Oh,
and more to come. So, yeah, I want to get you two connected because I think you guys would have a lot in common.
Awesome.
The second question is, I understand it makes a little noise periodically.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get this near a bedroom, or how do I solve that problem?
It's up to you. I'll show you. So we don't have, I don't know if we have any over here. I can do the thing and unplug and plug it back in. You can see how it works. But so what we can do, like I can open up this machine, and then under my gear setting, I've got vibration settings in here. So what I can do is set where my quiet hours are. And if I don't want it to vibrate, say when I'm asleep between midnight and 8, it won't ever vibrate during that time frame. And I can select the days of the week that I want it to do, let's say, and then I can add and I can add more of these if I would like as well. So, or take it away and then tap this to change my times. So it's just it's a nice way because it does make a little bit of noise, depending on there's some resonance depending on where you put it, what room it's in, it can sound louder. I've got mine in my basement, and at my house, I've got a little beer bar down there. And then, so it sits on top of the beer bar, but I can, if I'm in the next room over and I'm working, I can hear it when it's vibrating. So it's not silent when it vibrates, but it only does it for maybe 10 minutes or 20 minutes every 6 hours.
Mine is running right now, and it's 2 feet from the microphone. I don't know if the overhead camera will pick it up or not. Not zoomed in that close. Let's see.
Yeah. So right now you're
okay.
Yep.
So there's the beer maker and the microphone. Let's see if I can get a picture.
Yeah. So Scott he made a point here. So there were a couple of people, I'm not sure if it was Scott, even initially who did this, found that there are these acoustic pucks you could get for deadening, acoustic deadening. And if you put them under your beer maker, the resonance from the motor doesn't transmit into other areas that you're holding out. So it's pretty cool. And yeah, so that's something, and when you hear the motor go, it says brrr, and then brrr. It kind of sounds like if you've taken your phone and you put it on a hollow box and then you let it vibrate. Yeah. And so it's got that kind of reverberation to it.
Okay.
So it's something that we want to make quieter. We're going to make quieter in future hardware iterations, but for the time being, it's not horrible. And I'd say that just very carefully because it's a personal preference, and some people think it's horrible. Other people are like, oh, doesn't
Well,
bother me.
this sounds like a microwave running.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds, that's about the noise. It's
Yeah.
maybe 35 decibels when it's running, something like that.
I mean, it's again, I've got it in the studio, and I don't think the mic's even picking it up. So,
Yeah.
all right. Kevin has another question. It's the most popular again. I have a kegerator, so I have my own options for CO2 and kegging and serving. Do you ever foresee BEERMKR supporting someone like me with adapters and instructions?
Yes. And what I think is cool, and Andy answered the questions that we actually have some people on the Facebook group who are currently 3D printing adapters, and they're selling them to other people in the Facebook group. So if you're interested in that, you can find the resources on the group, and they'll get you the adapter to hook it up for your own keg. That said, it is something that, in the future we're hoping to offer. And we're still a pretty small team, and we're trying to, we're putting out the biggest questions first, which are the beer tap related, and that valve twisting, because I mean it's terrible if you've ever you go through your batch, and then if that valve creaks open like that and you start leaking beer, like it's not good. So that's number one priority right now, getting that fixed.
Somebody put on the Facebook group, there was a picture of beer on the floor.
Yeah.
And the next they drew a picture of like a silhouette where somebody, a murder scene. I thought that was great.
Yeah. That's how it
It's
feels.
sad.
It's how it feels. And whenever we get an email with that happen, like I just feel so horrible that they had to go through that. And we've been trying to get, we've revised our instructions a bunch of times to minimize that, to let let it know, like use a cloth or something, really crank down. It's like, but we're working on it. We're going to get you one that you don't have to crank down so hard.
All right. I don't have a name for the next one, so I apologize for that. But it's the most popular question at this point. As an old-time home brewer, I'm having an issue wrapping my head around figuring out the IBUs for my recipes.
That is an awesome question, and we can go into a lot of detail on this. You stop me if we get too far. All right, so we're using steam hops. Steam hops are pretty awesome. They are pre-isomerized hop pellets, but they're also oil adjusted. So what this essentially means is we are using hops that have gone through a steaming process for, let's call it 60 minutes. And then they're dried and pelletized. And when you use them in your beer maker, you can use them at yeast pitch, you can use them as a dry hop, but the flavor profile and the bitterness will be indistinguishable from if you had brewed that and boiled it for 60 minutes in your beer. So when you are using steam hops, you use them the same way in the recipe programs that you would use a traditional boil edition. So let's say you're using for our beer here, we have if I can show this up here, this is a 60-minute edition of Vanguard. And putting this in right now will yield out the IBUs that are associated with 60 minutes of a Vanguard hop at 6.4% alpha acid and within the volume of this batch. So if you're doing the BEERMKR recipe program, you just enter them in as if you're doing your old school boil, but then you just toss in the steam hops instead of doing the boil. If you wanted to use regular hops, you can absolutely do that too. During the pitch, yeast, and hop phase, instead of going into and pitching steam hops, you would actually, let me go up here, just to show you, you would pull out this guy, this waste down here, and then you would empty that into a small pot in your stove and just do a quick hop tea with using that as the base. And if you do that, it will be your recipe. You're not using DME. You're not using any of these other things. It will be the actual beer that you're making. And you can use your whole arsenal and library of pellet hops that you already have. So that's the best way to handle it. And the reason we wanted to go this steam hop route instead of doing the traditional route, I mean, it's multifold. Like, first is accessibility. We wanted this thing to be so easy to use that you can set it up in a couple minutes and go walk away. If we were loading in individual hop additions, the complexity becomes immense. But by using steam hops, we can get that same degree of creative control and control over the recipe, but adding in the convenience of a single addition. So the best way to think about steam hops is as if they were different malts in your mash. So you're not in traditional mash. You're not changing, mashing, let's say, just your 2-row malt, and then take part of that 2-row and then mash it at a higher temperature to get your dextrins. Now you're using caramel malts to get your dextrins. So you're putting them in both at the same time, so you get your fermentable sugars and your non-fermentable sugars at the same time. So steam hops are very much so the same thing as malts. We're just putting them in at the same time because we're taking that hop processing to the next level, and we're putting them through a steam, much like caramel hops are produced. They're produced with they're not dried, and they go through the kiln, and then they steam on the inside, and that's how the dextrins are produced. So, we're doing the same, using the same principles. I hope that answered the question. Steam hops are awesome. Definitely try them if you haven't used them. California Common.
I think so.
Yeah.
Next question comes from Kevin again. And Kevin wants to know, is BEERMKR the only source for retail purchase of steam hops? My main concern is the high shipping costs or minimum if all I need is steam hops.
Yeah, so right now we're the only homebrew source of steam hops. I know that there's some commercial avenues for it, but right now, yeah, we are the only homebrew source for it. So, yeah, shipping's challenging. When we ship stuff, we've got we take this similar model that More Beer, Northern Brewer, all of the online recipe supply places do, and that if you order $50 worth of ingredients from us, shipping's free. So, if you're ordering steam hops, order a few recipes worth, order some bags, order some, whatever you'd like to do, order yeast, order malts, and, just get it all done in one shot. And then, shipping's free at that point.
All right, our next question, they keep coming in. David has the next most popular question. How big, or i.e. a starting gravity of a beer, can one make with your system?
So the biggest beers we've made on here with malt is about 19 and a half Plato is about as high as we've gotten with the current capacities of the machine. And depending on the yeast, that translates into 8.5% ABV, maybe 8%, somewhere in that range. And boosting it is easy to do. Lots of ways to boost it. You can use DME, LME, dextrose. You can also, which is kind of fun. I made a recipe for a brewer the other day. He was doing a double mash. So he wanted to have a recipe where he put in half his malt and then gets a notification on his phone when it's time to pull that malt out and put another malt in, his second malt or second mash. And so he did that and was able to. I didn't hear back from him how big of a beer he was able to get out of that, but you can push up to 20, 25 Plato by doing double, triple mashes with it. So it's more of definitely a capacity issue. There are all kinds of fun ways to pop it too. Honey after the fact or whatnot. It's totally open.
Well, that was a problem on the Pico systems also. All right. Next question comes from Alex. Alex wants to know how far the development of the app in relation to international backers.
Yeah.
Thinking of measurements in Euro type degrees instead of Fahrenheit, etc.
Well, we've already got you on the metric system, at least for the weights of everything. So that's a thumbs up. And then so far as just transferring everything over to centigrade, that's really easy. We have it in our app roadmap, and so I'm hoping in the next couple months we'll be able to push that feature out.
Next question comes from David. Is there a home brew competition from BEERMKR brews? Because there should be.
I really, really want to do this. One of the, again, coming back to this app roadmap stuff, having a having this social section built in, and not just like a forum or whatnot. Like that's fine to have a forum, but being able to have like brewing competitions with each other, or even like geo-fenced BEERMKR meetups. And another thing that we did, we just released this Smash Beer series where, like Smash Beers are really great to understand the differences in various ingredients. So we did with sea hops, we have Citra, Cascade, Columbus, and Centennial. And it's hard to do that side by side. Like here is awesome. We just did a bunch of sea hop Smash Beers here and tasted them. And everybody who works here was drinking them and, was like, oh my God, Citra, it's like so clear how different Citra is from Cascade. And oh my God, like CTC, like so dank. So it's neat to be able to pick out those individual pieces. But what would make that so much more powerful is if we had these community features inside the app where we can organize essentially brew club meetups where, we can go over, we can all, brew a bunch of different beers. You can choose a theme, like in some of my an old brew club I was a member of, like, we would do just like themed brews. Like, all right, this time you can only use Cascade. Like, just make something good with Cascade, and then, we vote on which one we liked. And it's like, it's silly, but it's fun, because it really displays the versatility and creativity that is, just innately part of beer. And that's something that we're really trying to capture and promote with BEERMKR. Actually, I just heard the vibe. One of our vibe motors just turned on. So if you guys can hear it, that's about how loud it is.
I'm not hearing it, but
you can't hear it. Okay. Well.
I'm a beer judge, and the BJCP does not preclude anything except for professional brewers. So if you brew it on a BEERMKR or any other piece of gear, you're welcome to enter it into a BJCP competition.
It's awesome.
I mean, I don't speak for them, but I have never run into that as a qualification. So we judge the beer, not how you produced it.
Awesome.
Next question comes from Gary. How do you feel this fits in with traditional brewing competitions on that same topic?
Yeah, I think, Doug, you're the expert on this.
Well, I don't know about the expert. I think it fits right in, Gary, unless you know a reason that it shouldn't, especially since you can use your own components. So my guess is to win a competition, chances are you're probably going to have to tweak some things a little bit. So I don't know if that answers the question or not, but that's my opinion. John D has our next question. How much do these kits cost for each time, or I guess brew?
Mm-hmm. Philip's got the answer, $15 each. So, yeah, so the kits are, they honestly, they're going to vary in price. Our core kits are $15. We just released a Smash series, and those are $15 each. We have one beer that's a much bigger beer. It has a lot of grain in it. There's the Baltic Porter, which Gary, sorry, Sorry, not John. Sorry. The Baltic Porter is actually it's a big beer. There's a lot of specialty malts in it. There's Carafate 2. There's I believe there's Caramel 60. There's some special B. There's a lot of malt in that beer, and it's also using an expensive lager yeast. So because of that, we had to just price it higher because of the ingredients.
So I thought I'd show. So this is the Baltic Porter that you sent me. So just give everybody a little idea of what's in the $15 bag.
Oh, this one's $18. This is our most expensive kit, but it's not that much more expensive considering what you're getting.
So we've got, I guess that's a pound of Munich, a pound of Vienna, more Munich, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I put on glasses to read that one.
Is that special B?
Oh, special B.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, caramel malt and Vienna. And then, so we got more hops.
And you've got the Carafate 2 malt on the left too.
So got the full kit of the hops there, along with the wipes. And then these are the bags, as well as the CO2 bottles.
Yep.
You can't really see them, so we'll...
There you go.
So that's, that's a lot of stuff in a kit.
Yeah. Yeah, everything you need to go. And that's one of the reasons why it is fast, is because everything's measured out. You just open it up and you dump it in. And if you wanted to make changes or if you wanted to make additions to it, like Chris just brewed, who's standing right next to me. There we go. Again. Chris just brewed this incredible Baltic Porter, and he added 3 ounces of dried cherries. And it tastes like a chocolate truffle, like a creamy, velvety, dark fruit chocolate truffle. Like it's unreal. And like that was just tossing a handful of dried cherries in at the beginning. Michael asked, final volume is the bag is about 4.8 liters, so we're aiming for a 12-pack.
Okay, now Gary has a technical question here. He wants to know about the boil, and I'm sure he's talking about the necessity for a boil, DMS, all those things.
So we are not boiling. So we're producing pasteurized wort, and there are a couple things that you get in the boil that we're not getting here. One is you have development of sugars, right? You malodize those sugars and you create a deepness to them and a caramelization, kettle caramelization to them. So we don't get that with BEERMKR. So to achieve that in a recipe, you can add in a little more dextrin malt. You can add in a little more caramel malt to make up for that color difference and that non-fermentable sugar difference. The second piece is protein break. We do get a good hot break at our wort pasteurization temperature. So we're essentially mashing out at about 165. You get a decent hot break. If you open up your machine around then, you can see all of that hot break floating around in the bag. And then the other concern is DMS. So we're actually not getting to DMS conversion temperatures. So about 165 is around, is around the threshold where DMS can or cannot form. As you get up to 185, 200 degrees, that's when the S-methylmethionine begins converting rapidly into dimethyl sulfide. And then once it does, you've got to boil off that dimethyl sulfide in order to get it out of your wort. What BEERMKR does, we don't get to that S-methylmethionine conversion temperature. So we're at 165, and at 165, the half-life of SMM is about 1,000 hours. So we're not getting anywhere close to that. So you just don't have that problem. You can get a little DMS if you have an infection somewhere, but that's not due to the boil or lack thereof. It could be if you open up your brew tub and sneezed in it or something. So always an issue.
And Gary, that was also true of the Pico. They did not boil either. I think 207 was the highest temperature that they got. So what's the highest temperature the beer maker gets?
165.
165.
165, 170, somewhere in that range.
Okay.
And
pasteurization temperatures.
You got it.
Okay. Good question. Next one comes from Todd. Any advice on getting spilled beer out of the beer tap?
You can hose it down. They're not going to hurt anything. So if you've got beer that's inside the beer tap, just good spray and just let it drip out. If you've got
nothing that water will hurt.
No, you can keep it away from the regulator if you can. It's not great to have water inside the regulator. That's why you've got the one-way valves in it. But yeah, just give it a good rinse, and it should be fine. And we also include little trays for the beer tap. You can put the beer tap into the tray and put that in your fridge. So if you have any drips from your tap, or if you have a leak of any kind in your fridge, it won't get. There you go.
That's what that guy is.
That's got it. Yeah. Exactly.
All right, 7 more questions. So we're about done here. Can finished beers be conditioned in the bag without putting it in the beer tap?
Yes. You just put the bag in your fridge. Just lay it down. You can hang it. Something we've been talking about, it would be fun to have, is like a conditioner, like where you hang a bunch of different bags on it, but it can take up space in your fridge. The key, though, is in your fridge. If you leave the bag out in room temperature, the CO2 that's dissolved in there will slowly come out and it'll start pushing out, and you may get a point where the bag is producing too much pressure. So you want to keep it cold. And if you keep it cold, it should be fine. But if you let it warm up, yeah, it's got to be in a beer tap if you're gonna let it get warm.
Okay. Excellent question. Next question comes from Steve. Steve asks, do you guys ever bag hops, or you just toss them straight in?
So we're tossing them straight in, and I want to show you something. So we're working on a hop filter for the brew tub. So this guy is one of our prototype. We're actually vacuum forming it and sending our designs over to the fab facility. But this is a prototype just to make sure it works, and it works incredibly well. You just lay this down over the valve. And this is something that's just going to live in the brew tub. You just lay this down, and then you just toss hops in. Right now, we're just tossing hops in because it produces the best flavor profile. As I'm sure you've seen, if you use a hop bag, you don't get the same profile. All the hops stay central. They don't spread out. You don't get a really good absorption of all of those oils into your finished beer within the hop bag. And there's also the added issue of sometimes that hop bag can get trapped in the valve and clog things up. So I would personally prefer to have a little bit of hop matter in my glass than the stuck batch up at the top. That said, it won't be an issue in a couple of timeline-wise, a couple weeks to months. Sometime this spring we're going to be sending these out. These are pretty awesome. They work really well. Beers turn out incredibly clean with them, and all of the hop matter stays up in the top of the tub.
But all these things we're going through, which I love going through the questions. But the beauty of this is I'm sitting here, I'm brewing in my broadcast studio with my other equipment, and my wife sent me outside. So, I mean, this fits right in a kitchen or anywhere else. And, can it do everything? No, it doesn't seem like it can. But
Yeah,
can it brew, in a convenient way? It certainly seems like it.
that's the key. That's really the key.
Next question. Any plans for a bigger machine or bigger batch sizes?
We would love to. It's we've got a long development cycle of things we need to address on the current machine. Things like vibe motor noise levels, general affordability of the machine. We were originally hoping it would be a $300 to $400 machine. Now it's $500 something machine. So we've got a lot of things that we're trying to do. So what I'm curious about, I'm not sure who asked this question. They didn't put their name in. If let's say we were to create a machine that's half the price, would you buy two of them instead of a bigger machine that costs twice the price? And I think that's a real question, and would people want to go one way or the other? And
You didn't ask me, but I can tell you I'd rather have two smaller ones for the same amount of money than one bigger one, because as a beer judge, I'm trying to always learn the styles and the variations and trying, so two different small batches would be my preference. That may not be the same as our audience.
Right, and I would love to know. So if people have preferences one way or the other, send us an email, support@BEERMKR. I'd love to hear from you. Because it's a big consideration. Like one of the like home brewing in that 5 to 10 gallon range. We began doing that because it takes so much time to brew. So for the amount of effort you're putting into it, you've got to have a good couple weeks supply of beer, right? Whereas, BEERMKR, it's a little bit different because it's a couple minutes of setup and then you got beer happening on the back end of it. So if you have two machines that you're doing a couple minutes on each, now instead of doing, let's call it 3 gallons of porter, you can do 1.5 gallons of porter and 1.5 gallons of, some bourbon barrel aged imperial stout.
I like Kevin. He said 2 for 1 is better, but 3 for 1's even better.
Yeah, no, if all goes right, we'll hopefully get to it. It won't look like this machine, and we may be subtracting some features out of it. Like this machine, I'm really excited once we get this the pressure and CO2 system going, because it's going to unlock a lot of additional functionality. And that's one of those things that, having this totally open system, exploring brand new ways to do stuff, and new yeasts and new combinations, having that feedback and control loop is really important for, getting your hands dirty with experimentation. That said, like if we go, let's say we just hold the core competencies of the machine and we trim out some of these advanced controls and advanced monitoring and sensoring that we have in this machine, we can make it for a lot less. But it would be more of a, you're dealing with just time and temperature, and that's it. Which, honestly, it's okay if you have enough data and you trust it.
Okay, for those that are wondering if we're going to go on forever, there's a hard stop at the top of the hour. That's what I pay for. So when our 2 hours is up, and I think you can see a countdown there in the corner, we will end. So we'll get through as many questions as we can. But in case you wonder if this is never going to end, it will end in just a little over 10 minutes. We have just 5 questions in 10 minutes. So what would the process be for brewing a sour with lacto?
Step 1, send me an email, and I will send a recipe to your machine. So this is part of what the next version of this DIY section is going to look like. You're going to have these controls, but until then, I can send recipes. Matt can send recipes. All of us on the BEERMKR team can send your machine a recipe that will do this. So we go through you would load your grains in, go through the traditional brew step, it would cool down. Instead of getting the yeast pitch temps, it would hold it at about 100, 110. It would send you a notification, say, hey, time to remove your grain and add your lactobacillus culture. And then you would do that, and it will hold it at 100, 110, whatever temperature you'd like, for 24, 48 hours. Again, whatever you'd like. But so that stage is it would be a button press stage. So whenever you're done, you hit the button. The challenge with these lacto cultures is you should be taking relatively regular pH measurements. We don't have any way to measure pH in the machine. So if you have one of those cheap, like $10, $15 pH meters that you can find on Amazon, grab it, and you can do a sour. That said, very excited. We just got some cool yeast in. It's up on the store right now. It's a stuff called Philly Sour. It's a traditional brewing yeast that during the process of fermentation produces lactic acid as well as ethanol. So you can get the same lacto-style kettle sours with the traditional brewing yeast. And we're really excited to offer that over, in the next couple months. We're going to have a maker kit with that's a sour. And we're going to be using the Philly Sour yeast because it's so freaking convenient. You just toss it in and you got sour. And it produces pHs in the 3.3 to 3.6, 3.7 range. So it's nicely tart. It's not overly tart. It's not going to blow you up. But it's a really nice yeast and incredibly convenient.
Well, I know we've got Erin Glass in the audience, and she's with Lalamond, and I know they have a yeast that I've worked with that is really might be very suitable.
Yeah, Erin, I'm sure she's talking about Philly Sour. They also have a couple other lacto pitches as well, which are great. Yeah.
Well, that sounds like that would be a good one for our next brew.
Yeah. No, that would be great. Maybe Erin could come in and show us how she would do it.
Let's talk, Erin. We'll figure this out. Because when this doppelbock is done, I'm not sure what's next. Next question comes from Stephen. For your international backers, will you be shipping kits and parts at reasonable rates? Will those things run through Amazon shipping as well?
So we're going to have two sets, right? So we're going to have all of the core components that are going to live in Amazon in your relative area. So let's say you're in the Eurozone. We're going to have a handful of maker kits. We're going to have steam hops. We're going to have bags and all that stuff ready and shippable through Amazon. That'll be, hopefully next day delivery for you. And then that'll be really cheap and super easy. Just go into Amazon and pick it up. If you're ordering stuff through us, we're going to charge you as little as possible for it. Roughly a 2 pound box. So if we're omitting grain, if you're just ordering, let's say, steam hops or yeast or or the bags or those core components from us, it'll be about $30 to $35 US to leave our warehouse here in Boulder and get to your location. And that's pretty standard. Unfortunately, the customs entry fees and air freight and all that stuff, it's like Canada is $30 for a 2 pound box. Sweden is $40. Everywhere else lies somewhere between those two. So
yeah, I actually sell some items on Amazon. They take a really big cut to give you all that free shipping.
Sure do.
Pretty close to a third. So it's a pretty big hit to the sellers. I can tell you firsthand.
Yeah.
Michael asks, is there a technique to add flavorings after the fermentation? So you were talking about, what was that, black cherry?
Yes. Well, yeah. So we did
sour cherry.
We did tart.
Sour cherry. Tart cherry.
Yeah,
tart cherry.
Okay. Yes. So what the best way to add things post fermentation is using the squeeze bar again. So we talked about it during the setup. You have a single position. I'm going to bring this over. Open this guy up. Do we have any that are currently there? I don't think so. Yeah, so here we go. So there's a if you can see in the corner, we've got one here, one back there. So the one furthest away from us, that was actually the brewing position. And then the one closest to us is actually the dry hop or additives after fermentation position. So that's, if you're going to be putting in, let's say, oak chips during secondary or fruit puree of some sort, you would do that. And what this does, it actually pushes all this wort up into the that brew tub up here, and it's really nice because you're able to have this great liquid volume where you can add things like, you know, dry hops or cherries or whatever you're looking to add.
That is fascinating. I love how that works.
Cool.
I've got to try something now. Put some pecans in that porter.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, toasted coconut as well. That one is awesome.
Yes, toasted coconut would be even better.
Yeah.
This is quick and easy. What is the cost? He came in. Elliot came in late from work.
So $5.79 for the beer maker and the beer tap. So we've got a number of beer taps over here, and we've got our beer tap fridge as well, where we have probably 15, 20 beer taps in there. So you get one of those beer taps, you get a beer maker, and you get a maker kit for $5.79.
Yeah, and if you're interested, we did a box opening yesterday, so you could see that. So we got 4 minutes and 2 questions, and again, it is an unceremonious. Well, we just have one question left.
Great.
So don't go long because it's an unceremonious end.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So last question: any chance of getting a beer maker configuration in BEERSMKR for the DIYs?
So it's tough, right? We get this question a lot. So BEERSMKR, Brewfather, you know, these incredible recipe authoring programs that have been around that people use. They have huge libraries for. The challenge is it doesn't always translate well. You know, the biggest piece is water calculations. None of these programs actually have a calculation to show you how much water you need to put in order for your beer maker to function properly. So the challenge is, you know, we could build a profile, but it's going to be pretty incomplete. You know, you've got the core characteristics. You know, we have our mash efficiency that's between 75 and 80%. The initial mash volume is anywhere between 6,400 and 7,300 milliliters of water. The fermentation volume is about 5,200 milliliters of water. And that's about it, right? And that's where the similarities are going to end. And in order for it to be a valuable thing for brewers to use, it needs to have a couple other items like.
I can relate to that because in my Pico C, I did my own custom recipes, and it was really precarious working out the water because you got such a tight range, and the beer makers are even smaller. So, yeah, I could understand that. So just let you know, reading in the comments, Mark says, thank you, guys. Scott said it was a great question. Michael says, thank you, Aaron. David said, thanks, this was great. As a new beer maker owner, I'm about to do my first brew tomorrow, and I'm excited about it. Kevin says, thanks. Scott says, thanks. Well, there he is. Hey, Chris. Thank you, buddy.
Cheers. Cheers, y'all.
Cheers. So, again, we've got 45 seconds. Aaron, thank you so much. This was a lot of fun. I will let you know how the beer progresses over here with the beer maker that's right beside me, but I am going to move it out of the studio. But again, it's phenomenally quiet, and this was great. I just can't believe I'm doing a live broadcast and brewing beer at the same time. It's the first time for Gourmet Brewing, and you made it possible.
Well, cheers. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time so much. I look forward to seeing you Thursday, where we're going to be talking about Belgium and U.S. beers and their influence on each other. Julia